Well, meanwhile, the chairperson on the Select Committee on Education, Sciences and Creative Industry, Makhi Feni, also told that same briefing that his team will conduct oversight visits. A full disaster management report will be compiled. This is to determine which schools were severely damaged in the recent floods that we've seen, of course. 13 school children having been killed after a minibus was swept away while crossing a bridge in the Eastern Cape. The chairperson joins us now as we reflect on certainly the tragedy that we've seen in the Eastern Cape, damage we understand to over 200 schools in that province alone, and the work that's necessary to deal with that. And perhaps, Chairperson, let me greet you first. Chairperson Makhi Feni, thank you so much for joining us, and a good evening to you.
Good evening, Madam. Good evening to your viewers.
Yeah, I think let's start in the Eastern Cape. We certainly will get back to this issue of the higher education minister that has been quite a contentious issue, and we see you also speaking up there in that sitting. But let's focus on the updates that you have continued to receive up until now as to the state of school infrastructure in the Eastern Cape. We know that it's going to be a very difficult job to tally the extent of the damage and just how much is needed, but the trickle in of information that you have received.
Yes, thank you very much. Once again, let me first extend the words of condolences to the families that lost their kids through the incident that we've had of those who are 13 that were involved in an accident of being wiped away by water due to a bridge that have overflown. So we are saying that we need an improved infrastructure. It is not acceptable that our kids can be exposed in that kind of a situation in this day and age. So it's an unacceptable one. We are waiting for a full report from the department, as we have not yet received a formal one, but we are just receiving updates as we are correctly raising it. And then also the question now of management, disaster management. We feel very, so we're cross and sad to hear that they are just responding, on disasters, that took place instead of preparing and plan ahead, because they are weather services that always are warning us when there will be situation of this magnitude.
Yeah.
We can't be reacting. That's what we are saying as a select committee.
Well, here's what makes it even more difficult. We're reporting here as well, just this evening, that more adverse weather is expected. In fact, that weather looking quite similar to what we saw just a few weeks ago, right? You've got the South African Weather Service saying a powerful cold front is expected to hit the country from Wednesday. Eastern Cape, Western Cape, Northern Cape expected to be hardest hit. And we're talking about heavy rain, damaging winds and snow once again. So when you say preparation needs to be in place for schools, what would that communication need to look like as early as now, for instance, when we know that another bout of this heavy weather is on its way?
For instance, you can't send learners on an environment that you have no necessary infrastructure. The question of bridges, proper roads, and even the question of classrooms, because we still have challenges in terms of classrooms. You send kids, especially if you are warned. Then, hence, I'm saying that it can't be a question of reacting, but you just adjust your timetable. We know that we are writing exams, the kids are writing exams or are preparing for their exams, and some of them have finished their exams, So you can't expose them in that kind of a situation. You must be proactive than being reactive, so that you do not talk across the country. In fact, not only in Eastern Cape, if there is a question of snow, how do you keep that situation so that people are not being trapped on this on a snow situation where they cannot be able to reach their homes? Even those that are at homes, how do you warn them? So it's the question of really planning and planning and planning. That's what we're saying. We can't be a situation of reacting on disasters. We know the question of climate change, is very, very, bringing us, some rough, weather situation. We are saying that the disaster management teams must be, ahead of this crisis.
Yeah. I'm running out of time, so I do need to bring in this issue of the higher education minister back into sharp focus. I mean, I think it certainly caught a lot of South Africans' attention, even on social media, with that comment around credibility, how she defines it, the comments around the encyclopedia, and of course the apology that she's made around that. But now the question becomes, what needs to be done with the panel that has now been appointed? But you've got the portfolio committee saying that they've got until Wednesday. They must provide terms of reference when they were appointed. Why did you, in that sitting, feel it was important that that process with this panel not be pursued?
I think I was incorrectly captured.
Okay.
Because one thing that I was raising is that first and foremost, I applauded the vigilance on the side of the portfolio committee when they are identifying something. But the question now of that irritated me mostly was when it was this thing now was being, treated as if, it's some sort of a game rather than on looking in terms of what are the legislative processes that are supposed to be embarked on, and also not to ignore what the president have done, because the president have requested a formal a report. So therefore we must have confidence on these processes. It's what I was raising. We must have confidence when the president have requested a report. Then we must see to it that the president is going to act as it was the situation on the question of the Bella Act. So this thing of bickering, I do not understand from legislators. These are legislators that are supposed to be understanding the process of legislation, how the legislation works.
Yeah.
And also,
let me just argue with you. Let me argue with you, if you'll allow me, just to play devil's advocate. I get the point around legislators bickering in Parliament, but the argument is made that, well, the structure of really what's expected from Parliament is to hold the executive accountable. So where you do have a minister needing to account and there's a request for details, that should be provided, even if there is a process taking place by the president, that this is the mandate of Parliament.
Indeed, there is a way of getting information in Parliament. They know how to get the information. You don't get information by shouting each other on your committees, and become unruly. It was I was arguing about, that you can't do that. The whole country, we are voted by the citizens. They are not expecting that kind of behavior from legislators. It's my argument even now. There are processes. You make subpoenas. You write correspondences in order to get that information, as it isn't the case on the question of panel, because the question of information from the panel now was written to the office of the minister, and then that information was provided. And then if you see that it's not enough, you do the same thing, you write again. You don't just run to the media and then you do those performances. It's what I'm saying, that it was really so irritating, because all the ministers, in fact, are appointing their boards. It's not only the Minister of Education that have that prerogative. Yes, it's what I'm against of.
All right.
Hence, I've applauded the vigilance of the portfolio committee and also the chairperson. But the question of really the one that I'm talking about, I do not agree with. It's what I'm raising.
All right.
There are processes or legislative processes that are in place.
All right. The request, of course, there has been made by the portfolio committee on higher education and training, saying the panel selected by the higher education minister to look at SETA board chair appointments, to, of course, bring forward their terms of reference and with their appointment by Wednesday. But we're going to leave it there. Makhi Feni, the chairperson of the Select Committee on Education, Sciences and Creative Industries, speaking to us this evening.